Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Morning, everyone. Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Hope you're doing well wherever this video finds you. Interestingly enough, I'm looking at my camera. We've been having camera problems, right? Let me take a look here. Probably should have done this before the show started. Well, it looks like the camera's sitting there properly. It looks a little uneven to my eyeball. Do I look uneven here? Let's see. It's like a little adjustment live on air here. Wow, look at that. I don't know. Looks good. We'll go with it. I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Hope you're doing well on this Thursday, May 15th. Hopefully this is not the first time you've joined us. If it is, welcome to our 400th show. 400. It's pretty damn good, right? 400th free show here on the Elite Sports Network. You can go to fantasyguru.com, click that Elite Plus tab at the top of the page, and find this show as well as the others on the Elite Sports Network. The Race Guru Thunder Hour, Mind of Marsal, One Man's Opinion, Fantasy's Basketball Diaries. Check that out over there. You can always watch this show at any point. You can watch it. That's right. Watch it or listen to it. You can go to fantasyguru.com, click that Elite Plus tab. You can go to facebook.com/fantasyguruhq. Twitter X @fantasygurusite. YouTube.com/@Elite Plus Network. Any of those three places, watch the show. You can ask questions, leave comments live, which is always nice if you have something you want to talk about. You can always find us as well by typing Fantasy Sports Daily into your podcast network, and then you can find us, whether you're on YouTube Music or Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify. So lots of ways to check out this show, and hopefully you enjoy this free offering from FantasyGuru.com. Remember, it is now time, folks. If you're not involved with the baseball product with us over at FG, now is the time to get in. Go to FantasyGuru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. When you do that, for $75 the rest of the way, one price, you get all the baseball stuff we do. All of it. Every article, everything. Every article, every ranking update, all the Discord rooms, access to all the articles. You can do DFS. You can do betting. You can do the seasonal stuff if you need a boost there, some help. Pretty damn good offer, folks. $75, massive discount for the rest of the season. And remember, we still over 2/3 of the season, 3/4 of the season. What are we at? Quarter point? We're at about the quarter point. So 3/4 of the season left for baseball. And we'll be with you there throughout the season, even including into September when everyone else is doing football. We'll be doing football, of course, too, over at FG, but we'll be covering baseball throughout. So check us out right now. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner or send a note to support@fantasyguru.com. All right, let's get into it. What are we talking about today? You see it on the screen there. Dalton Rushing, one of the better prospects in baseball at the catcher position, has been called up by the Dodgers. We'll talk about him. Oneil Cruz, Josh Lowe, Parker Meadows, Adolis Garcia, Luis Robert, Jeremy Pena, Drake Baldwin, Kyle Stowers, Riley Greene, and then some pitching talk, and it's unfortunately not all good. Bryce Miller, Roki Sasaki, Luke Weaver, Devin Williams, Yimi Garcia, Walker Buehler, Hunter Dobbins, and Spencer Strider. Did you see the Spencer Strider report yesterday? We'll talk about that in a few minutes. In about 25 minutes, it's a Thursday, so we'll visit with Tyler Beaker of FantasyGuru.com. Remember, Armando Marsal comes on Tuesdays to talk football. Thursdays is Tyler Beaker to talk football. Fridays is Russell Clay to talk football. All of those guys come on about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, about a half hour into the show. I skipped Wednesdays because Wednesdays, Justin Fensterman's here with Armando Marsal most of the time. On Wednesdays, I'm with Jeff Manns on the Elite Sports Show. That's on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio Monday through Friday. So Monday through Friday, you're here at 12 o'clock Eastern. You then go to SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio with Jeff Manns from 3 to 6 Eastern. I'm there on Wednesdays. And then Monday through Friday at night on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio from 8 to 10 Eastern. It's Elite Sports Game Time with me and Justin. So Justin and I go through the one or two basketball games that are going on. We talk about the baseball games that are going on. Tonight's going to be different because we've only got like one live game in baseball tonight. There'll be no race plays there for me because obviously there's no late slate for fantasy baseball for betting and DFS. I'll try to get a bet out. I'll have a bet or two. I'll try to do that. Now, I'm not going to force it, but I'll try to do that. But for the DFS angle, there won't be any race plays. I will have a Rays Ramblings piece up today over at the site. But we'll talk tonight. I think we're going to talk. Let me verify this. I think we might. Is Slappy White coming on tonight or is Bosco coming on tonight? One of the two is coming on tonight. Let's see if the sheet is already updated or not. Let's see as Ray scrolls through here. Live action. It doesn't say it. Oh, here we go. Mark Hogan comes on tonight. The DFS Marlin comes on tonight to talk with us about UFL And again, you don't know who Mark Hogan is. You've seen him on this show. You've heard him on the show on SiriusXM previously. He's a star in the DFS space. So we'll talk to him tonight at about 9:30 Eastern time. And then Friday, we'll talk to Slappy White about the horse racing. So thank you for updating the grid, Justin Fensterman. All right, let's talk about today. Let's make me a little bit bigger because I'm really important. All right, there we go. Let's talk about, let me get this up. I'm rifling through things. Let's get into it. The Dodgers called up Dalton rushing, and he was not active in his first game last night. And we spent so much time talking about the Dodgers pitching, and we'll do so again later today, that, we haven't talked a ton about their hitting. Obviously, Teoscar Hernandez is down right now. Tommy Edman is down right now. Neither one of those is expected to return this week, but it certainly looks like both could return next week for the Dodgers. So rushing is kind of an odd call-up because he's obviously not going to catch much. Will Smith is there and doing great. He can play a little bit of first base, can rushing, and we've talked about Max Muncy and his struggles, but the thing is Max Muncy's playing third base, so he can play a little bit of outfield, and as I noted, we have two guys in the outfield that are down right now. So rushing is up. So the real question with rushing, who is probably the top prospect in the Dodgers system, probably the top catching prospect in baseball in terms of offensive outlook. What's this look like? Because if in 10 days from now, Edman and Teoscar Hernandez are back, they're both going into the lineup. Where then does rushing play? And this is something we've seen with the pitching staff. It's just turnover. Because again, Jeff Mans and I talked about this on the Elite Sports Show again, 3 to 6, Monday through Friday on SiriusXM. We talked about this directly yesterday, the fact that it's not a 25-man roster for the Dodgers, it's a 40-man roster for the Dodgers. And they just roll through these guys, and they don't care. They're just rolling through these guys, trying to win ball games, get to the playoffs, and worry about it later on. So, 2 catcher leagues, add rushing, sure. 1 catcher leagues, I'd be reluctant at this point in time. Depends who you're dropping. It depends who you're waiting on, that kind of thing. I had a question, I think it was yesterday. Was it keep Ruiz or rushing? And I said, just keep Ruiz. I think that was what it was over in the Discord. We just don't know how much playing time rushing is going to get. I mean, it's just really tough to see how this is going to work out when Edman or Hernandez are back. He's really exciting. If you want to add him now, maybe you added him last night, maybe you added him today. Okay, you want to give it a shot. Okay, hopefully we get a little bit more clarity by the time the FAB runs on the weekend. For those of you new to the show, we discuss labor, FSGA, and Tout Wars FAB on Mondays here on the show. Monday's the only day where we talk all baseball here on the show, and I go through those 3 leagues I'm in and discuss the waiver wires. Spend at least a half an hour on that each Monday. We'll see, hopefully by the Sunday night when most FAB runs, what the actual situation is with rushing. Oneil Cruz, and I was talking to somebody earlier this week over at FG in the Discord room. They were asking questions about setting a lineup this week, and I said, look, I'd be cautious with Oneil Cruz because I just don't know where his back is at, and we're still in a holding pattern. He didn't play yesterday. That's 4 straight games that he has missed with what is being called lower back tightness. The Pirates have not strongly suggested at any point that he's going to end up on the injured list. You can backdate an injured list stint, if I'm not mistaken, 3 days. So they're already past that point. So if they want to backdate it, they lose a day here at this point, if I'm remembering that rule correctly. So, Oneil Cruz is a tremendous baseball player. He's been fantastic this season. He's improved against lefties. He's taking walks. All that, he's stealing bases like a madman. Here comes the lower back thing. And again, I've talked about my lower back issue. I'm a tall guy. I'm about 6'4". He's taller than me. When you're a tall guy, sometimes your back is a problem. Hopefully this is a very minor issue and he's back hitting home runs and stealing bases next week. Very well could be the case. We just don't know right now. We're in a holding pattern. We've seen teams do this season too, where they have a guy and they say, oh, he's not going on the injured list. And they wait a couple days and still not going on the injured list. And then they put him on the injured list. So we'll see. Hopefully that the Pirates will make a decision here soon. Hopefully he'll be back in the lineup for the next game. But he has missed 4 games in a row. And that's disappointing for those of us that are in leagues. I don't think I have Oneil Cruz in any league actually this year. But for those of us that have him in leagues where you can set your lineup only once a week on a Monday, this has been a really rough one if you had Oneil Cruz active. Josh Lowe. He's looking like he could be back this weekend. At least that was the expectation. He's coming back from an oblique issue. Now, we got word that Travis Jankowski is dealing with some physical hiccup here. So they might fast forward Lowe and get him active before the weekend. Maybe today. Maybe. I still think it's going to happen this weekend. There is an article, Rays Ramblings, yesterday. Again, I wrote one of those. I'll write another one today. In the Rays Ramblings piece, I discussed this situation with the Rays. So if you want more information on that, check out that Ramblings article. The bottom line is Lowe's going to be back soon from the oblique injury. He went 20-30 a couple years ago, went had 10 home runs and 25 steals last year. He's a legitimate power threat. He's going to face righties. Batting average is going to be volatile, but he gives you power and speed, and he looks like he's about ready to return for the Rays, which is obviously good news in the fantasy space. Speaking of returning to action, Parker Meadows, who it's hard to remember now because it was a long time ago, but back in January, we were all looking at Parker Meadows and saying, all right, he figured things out in the second half last year. This is a young guy. He's going to play most days for the Tigers. He's going to go 2020 this year. Let's go. And then injuries and injuries and injuries and injuries. Okay. So he's going to start a rehab assignment soon. We don't have an exact target date, but very soon. He's dealing with the nerve issue in his right arm, his upper arm. It's kind of was a weird thing. We didn't quite understand it at the time. And I guess it's a nerve issue. I've dealt with nerve issues before. You probably have too, whether it's on a large scale, like it's Parker Meadows, or a smaller scale. But if he does indeed head out on an injured list stint, let's say starting next week, let's give him 2 weeks. So it seems very reasonable that he'll be active come June 1st-ish for the Tigers. Now, again, it depends how he responds. And we're getting proactive here. But that's a very reasonable expectation. Now, what's interesting, and we've talked about this too, is that Javier Baez is playing center field right now, and he's been fantastic offensively. Go read his player profile at fantasyguru.com. I don't expect this to continue. But Baez is playing center field. When Meadows is back, he's back in the lineup. Like I'd be really surprised if they just left Parker Meadows in the minor leagues. Right? I'm really surprised by that. Let's verify. He's got to have. Yeah, he still have options left, so they could do that. Just wanted to make sure he still had options left. So when he comes back and he's in the lineup most days, we're gonna have an outfield of Kerry Carpenter. Maybe he goes to DH. That maybe they leave Baez in the outfield, but Carpenter, and Greene and Meadows. They got pieces here. Colt Keith, that he's an option. They've got Sweeney, who's doing a very good job right now. They've got McKinstry, who's doing a good job right now. Let's not forget that they've got Matt Vierling coming back from injury. So this is going to get tight for playing time. So you're going to have to produce. But the bottom line is Parker Meadows is moving in the right direction. Let's hope he's back that first week of June. And remember, he is a 2020 threat. Oh, boy. I knew that was coming. Sorry, folks. He is a 2020 threat. When is the last time I sneezed on air, whether here on Sirius? Ever? Maybe never. Jeez. Look at the sun. Look at the sun. That's I think it actually works. Pinch your nose and look at the sun. I can't see the sun. It's above the roof right now. Anyway, Parker Meadows close to return, hopefully, and maybe back into our lives in the fantasy space. So make sure I would consider adding him this weekend. There's a lot of guys who could add this weekend. Rushing in some leagues will be available. Well, probably in most leagues. If you have Fab, Jordan Lawler, Ryan Weathers, like a lot of guys might be. And I'll be writing about, by the way, Ryan Weathers today over at fantasyguru.com. So check that out in the soon-to-be-published Rays Ramblings piece. Adolis Garcia had a 2-run home run last night. And, let's pull up Garcia and look at what's going on here. Last season was messy, and he came into this season feeling better. He felt like he rediscovered his swing, kind of went back to some old mechanics. And then he got beat up a little bit early on, and it's like, And, here he is, and it's looking like a carbon copy of last year. Now, when you see Adolis Garcia, is he 31? He's 32 years old. He's, 6'1", 215 pounds. He's a rock of muscle. He's, again, 32 years old. He looks like wow. And let's not forget that, back in 2022, this guy went 25-25, right? Because he's not just some muscle masher. He's a guy that could steal a base. Now, he stole 25 bases in 2022. He's only averaged 10 steals the last 2 seasons. So he's really curtailed his running. But the issue is lack of production. He went from a 836 OPS in 2023 to 680 last year and 680 this year. That's a terrible level. Just terrible. Now, the positive news with Garcia is that he's striking out way less. He's chopped off 5-6% from his strikeout rate, which is really nice. Unfortunately, he's also seen his walk rate fall to a 4-year low. So his walk to strikeout ratio is basically the same. But I do like the fact that he's making more contact. I do also like the fact that when you look at the data underneath the hood, as Justin Fensterman's want to say, his exit velocity right now would be a career best. His barrel rate would be 1/10 off matching his career best. His hard hit rate would be 1% below his career best. So is he going to hit 224 doing that? I mean, his expected batting average is 254, which is 30 points above where his batting average is. His expected slugging percentage is 493, which is almost 90 points above where his slugging percentage is. So the bottom line for me is he's hitting the ball pretty much as hard as ever. He's apparently healthy at this point, and he's striking out less than normal. So I have Garcia, I think, in just one league. Unfortunately, it's an on-base percentage league, and he's killing me there at 278. But I think Adolis Garcia is somebody that could be on the waiver wire. Probably shouldn't be. So a hot stretch here coming up would not surprise me at all. He hit a home run last night. Luis Robert went 2 for 3 with a run scored, an RBI, and a stolen base. And I don't know. Luis Robert's on a terrible team, the White Sox, all that kind of stuff. He hasn't hit in about 2 years. He's got 17 steals. He now leads baseball again in steals. He's stolen 10 bases the last 15 games. I don't know how many people notice this. I've written about it. We talked about it here, I think, a while back on the show. The bat still is in the toilet, but he's stolen 10 bags in 15 games. So, if he's going to hit 22 home runs this year and steal 42 bases, we'll take it. Now, if he's hitting 197, but he looks an awful lot right now like the guy we were just talking about earlier in Josh Lowe. The expectation is Luis Robert hits 35 home runs and steals 18 bases. Looks like he might hit 18 home runs and steal 35 bases, so it's flipped. Now, we don't necessarily think that's a bad thing because it's never wrong to get stolen bases. I don't think we can count on a guy like Robert to continue to be this successful on the base paths because, again, I think if he keeps running like this, he probably gets hurt. Is that your concern too? Yeah, my concern as well. I still hope he gets traded. We'll see. His contract runs through this season, and then he becomes a free agent. Oh, he becomes a free agent next year. No, he doesn't, because technically they're club options. So I don't know. Like, the team obviously is not going to let him go for nothing. So I guess he's still tied into the White Sox with these club options. I don't know all the particulars. I have to look that up. But he's batting 190 with a 296 on base percentage. And again, we're at 139 games of him hitting 215 with a 281 on base percentage or something like that. So not a good offensive player, not doing anything particularly well except for running. He is now 6 steals away from his career high of 23 last year. Run, kid, run. Jeremy Pena went 4-4 last night. Jeremy Pena has 15 hits now during a 7-game hitting streak for the Astros. His batting average has gone from 275, which I think would be a good result for him this season, up to 315, which would be an excellent result for Jeremy Pena this season. We talked about him last night. I think it was on the Game Time show, again, 8 to 10 Eastern on Sirius XM. And the big change for Pena, obviously, is he's batting leadoff. Jose Altuve has been pretty poor offensively this year. He's batting second. Yordan Alvarez is their third hitter now. Yordan Alvarez is out with the hand injury. Hitting in front of Altuve and Alvarez, even when they're struggling, they're still who they are, right? And pitchers respect that. Organizations respect that. They'll pitch carefully to them. They'll worry about them, all that kind of stuff. Jeremy Pena hitting first there is fantastic because he's got those two guys behind him. Pena's not an ideal leadoff guy because he's not a guy that takes a ton of walks, and though his on-base percentage right now is good, it's because he's hitting 315. He's not going to hit 315 this year. But clearly he has the opportunity not only to match but exceed his draft day cost, Jeremy Pena. I wasn't big on Jeremy Pena. I thought he's fine. He kind of is in that, Dansby Swanson zone. If you end up with Jeremy Pena, cool. You're not losing anything there. I don't think you're necessarily gaining anything. Now I might have to reassess that position. And in fact, obviously, we're starting to do that right here on the show. The fact that he's batting leadoff changes the calculus. So if he can stick in that spot, even when the batting average comes back down to 275 or 280, whatever it might be, he's going to score a bushel of runs and get a ton of pitches to hit if he's in front of Altuve and Alvarez. Drake Baldwin batting second today for the Braves. Cool, that's great. Now, is he going to stick in the number 2 hole? No chance. Long term, no chance. We know that. Acuna is going to be hopefully back in a couple of weeks. Here we go, all that kind of stuff. But this will now be the 3rd time in 4 games that Baldwin has started against a right-handed pitcher. Sean Murphy, Baldwin did a fine job when Murphy was out. Murphy returned. Huge power explosion when Murphy started in his comeback from injury. Now this is the 3rd or 4th game, 3 or 4 games against righties where Baldwin is going to be the starting catcher. Has Baldwin surpassed for now Sean Murphy as the number 1 choice against right-handed pitching? Seems like it's getting close to that. Now, it's totally understandable because though Murphy hit the home runs when he returned, his overall offensive game has been kind of muted. It's been that way for a little bit of time now, too. Baldwin's hitting 338 with a 390 on-base percentage and a 560 slugging percentage. Baldwin is hitting like he's Mike Piazza. I mean, that's what the slash line says. The Braves realize that. They realize that, though the team is much better after that terrible start to the season. Hey, man, this guy's killing it right now. Let's get him higher in the order. Let's get him in the lineup on a daily basis. We talked about him the other night on Game Time when we discussed the fact that, Marcell Ozuna is basically locked into the DH spot at this point of his career. So it's difficult to get both Baldwin and Murphy in the lineup at the same time. But maybe the Braves are just making the decision that for now we're going to go Baldwin. So I'm not comfortable at this point saying Baldwin's a top 10 catcher the rest of the way because Sean Murphy is still there, and I just don't think he's going to end up being mothballed. But if Drake Baldwin is sitting there on the waiver wire and you need a boost, if your starting catcher is struggling, if you're in a 2-catcher league and miraculously he's still on the waiver wire, make a move because he's killing it right now. And though hitting second, short term, it's great. Long term, we have concerns. But right now, he's stealing playing time from Sean Murphy. It's just the way it is. Kyle Stowers had 3 for 4 night. Last night, a couple of home runs. Kyle Stowers is up to, 3 home runs his last 2 games. He's up to 9 home runs on the year. He's got a 30% strikeout rate, so his batting average is, if he hits 250 doing that, it's pretty good. But if Kyle Stowers hits 250 with 28 home runs, there we go, right? He wasn't expensive on draft day. He's on a Marlins team that, but he's done a very good job. Unlike some of the guys that the Orioles kept, cursed at, on and on. Stowers, who's dealt, has actually performed pretty well. Watch the strikeout rate, but he's hot right now, and he's doing very well driving the baseball for that Marlins team. Riley Greene, speaking of another guy driving the baseball, we had a bunch of Riley Greene back and forth, concerns about Riley Greene. He was in the toilet for a while there. I had to really impress upon some of you in Discord over at fantasyguru.com and in articles, don't give up on Riley Greene. Don't drop Riley Greene. Don't trade him for 50 cents on the dollar. 3 for 4 with a 2-run home run last night. All of a sudden, through basically a quarter of the season, he's on pace for almost 40 home runs and 100 RBIs. He's also got his batting average up to 270. He's got his slugging percentage up to 330 and his slugging on-base percentage up to 330, and his slugging percentage at almost 500. It's all okay. It's all okay, everybody. Riley Greene's back to being Riley Greene. There's more to give here, too. He's been hot since that rough patch. I would not be if he goes 30-90 this year, hitting 275. I said this before the season began. 30-90, 275. I'm not going to be surprised at all. So hopefully you stayed and withered the struggles, stayed the course with Riley Greene. If you did, you're already being rewarded for that patience. Let's talk a little bit about the pitching before we talk to Tyler Beaker and discuss some football here in a few minutes. Bryce Miller, who I've talked up a lot, who's on a bunch of my teams, on a bunch of your teams. There's been a lot of discussion of late. What's wrong with this guy? And, we've known something is wrong. Well, now we know officially what is wrong with him. His right shoulder. He said that he's been dealing with this tightness thing and soreness thing for a bit. So he's on the injured list. So at least you don't have if you still have Miller, as I do in multiple leagues, at least you don't have to have that debate. Do I start him? Do I drop him? You put him on the injured list. How long is he going to be out? We don't know that yet. Hopefully it's a 2 or 3 week thing, but we have no idea. The Mariners, who, as we've talked about for a couple years now, have one of the better pitching staffs in baseball. Think about this. Gilbert is on the injured list. Kirby's on the injured list. Miller's on the injured list. If that's not their top 3, if you want to throw Luis Castillo in there because he's a veteran, okay. It's 3 of their top 4 in a worst case scenario. And Miller, Gilbert, and Kirby, all 3 of those guys were all top 30 starting pitchers this year. I think basically according to everybody. And they're all on the injured list. So we'll see with what's going on. Jonathan Diaz has been promoted for now. We'll see. Kirby's trending toward returning in a couple of weeks, I believe. Gilbert's starting to throw some bullpen sessions. There was video of that, so hopefully he's a couple of weeks away from returning. Bryce Miller, we just don't know. But the strength of that Mariners team, those 3 young right-handed pitchers, all of them on the injured list right now. And that obviously is something that is very difficult for them and for us to deal with. Roki Sasaki is going to be shut down from throwing for a while, according to Dave Roberts. What does a while mean? We don't know. We don't know. So the fact is that Sasaki's shoulder's barking a little bit too. They're going to wait a bit here, I guess, before they do anything. They're going to shut him down for throwing. We didn't hear any talk about injections or. Good news for the Dodgers is Clayton Kershaw should be returning. We thought Sunday. Now it seems like Kershaw is going to return on Saturday. So that's good news, obviously, for the Dodgers. They have a direct replacement, Sasaki out, Kershaw in. As we've discussed here on the show and Discord and articles over at FG, you should be adding Clayton Kershaw. I don't know what the upshot is with Sasaki, much like Bryce Miller. These are two guys that much more is expected from than what we have seen from either one of them. The Dodgers do have like 9 starting pitching options, though half of them are hurt. We don't know how much time Sasaki's going to miss. And Sasaki, I think I had him, I'm trying to remember, what I have him, 39th. I'm throwing a random number out there, 39th in the preseason rankings. Then we dropped him to 85 or something like that, 83 in the updated May rankings. Remember, the rankings get updated the first of every month. That's part of the package. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. Get access to all the baseball stuff, including the updated rankings every month. I update all 600 plus players. I think it's like 650. So next time will be June 1st. I think Sasaki was in the 80s. He struggled with velocity at times. He certainly struggled with control for most of the season. He really seems like needs to get another pitch, which is not surprising. There was a lot of that talk coming into the preseason, really, to get major league hitters out consistently. He might need another pitch. But the fact is, right now, we don't know how much time he's going to miss, but he's been shut down for throwing for a while, and you can't help but be concerned about that. Luke Weaver struck out the side in the 9th inning on Wednesday for the save against the Mariners. Weaver has been great. He threw back-to-back days. He threw 2 innings, if I'm not mistaken, on Tuesday. So it's not just he threw back-to-back days. I think he threw 3 innings in those 2 days. Interesting to point out, Weaver's been stellar all season long. Devin Williams has struggled for most of the year. But here comes Devin Williams. 3 straight scoreless appearances. 6 times in 7 outings since he was removed from the closer's role. 6 and 7. He's been scoreless. So here we go. I mean, this is going to be really interesting. You have to think that Devin Williams eventually, if not soon, goes back into the 9th inning. They didn't bring him into town and pay him all that money to have him be a setup guy. Now, Luke Weaver is not making this decision easy because Luke Weaver was really good last season. He was excellent down the stretch and into the playoffs. He's been fantastic in terms of run prevention coming into this season. Devin Williams making $8.6 million. But I think Devin Williams takes this job back over probably in short order. This is another scenario like the Pirates with the uncertainty when Bednar was coming back, what to do with Santana. If the Yankees, do make the note of, hey, we're putting Devin Williams back in the 9th inning, you don't need to drop Luke Weaver. He's fine as a setup guy in his own right. Weaver has been uneven. He's dealt with some injuries going back to last year. So if they do make a switch here saying, oh, Devin Williams is now our guy, don't panic. Maybe they still just go with matchups for a while. Maybe they start splitting the 9th inning a little bit. But Devin Williams, with his track record and success, when he is right, he is that change-up thing. I forget what it's called offhand. He's probably going back in the 9th inning for the Yankees. Yimi Garcia threw a perfect inning yesterday. Got a save for the Blue Jays. I've had multiple questions, as I should have had, about Jeff Hoffman. What's going on? Jeff Hoffman has had 3 games where he's been absolutely obliterated. 3 days where he's taken the hill and he's had no chance. Every other time he's taken the hill, he's basically been Edwin Diaz. Like, he's been fantastic other than those 3 outings. I still believe firmly he's the closer. The way the Blue Jays are using him clearly showed that there's very little, if no concern about his health. So I wouldn't be worried about the offseason. He didn't pass the physical stuff with him. Yimi Garcia is a fine addition. He's a fine pickup. Still expecting Hoffman to be the closer for this team moving forward. Let's see. Walker Buehler should return on Tuesday. If you missed it, Tanner Houck has been sent to the injured list. Walker Buehler will return then. Hunter Dobbins, who will stay in the rotation, it seems like, for now. Didn't pitch great yesterday, 5 runs in his 5 innings. He was against Tariq Skubal, so, Skubal actually gave up 5 runs too, so Dobbins didn't cost the Red Sox the game there. He's okay. I don't mind adding Hunter Dobbins if you want. He's likely to face the Mets in his next start. He's fine. But, yeah, Walker Buehler will be back. Dobbins probably sticks around for now, and then we'll wait and see how much time Tanner Houck's going to miss. And finally, before we visit with Tyler Beaker and talk some football, Spencer Strider's had a hamstring injury after coming back from the arm injury. Was throwing a 65-pitch simulated game yesterday. They wanted him to go 5 innings, and apparently he had diminished velocity in this outing. There was kind of a hope that he would throw this effort, the simulated game, and then they'd immediately activate him for his next turn, right? Given that diminished velocity yesterday, I would have to think it's possible that one of 2 things happens. They either back him off a little bit, meaning they wait a little bit more time before they let him return to the big leagues, or they send him out for a rehab assignment to be sure. Wasn't catastrophic or anything like that, but he was sitting at 93, 94. He should be sitting at 96. So, not terrible, not overly concerning, of course, but Spencer Strider may not be ready. Maybe he's ready to go and starting against the Nationals early next week. Maybe it's next weekend. Let's hope that either one of those two's played out and it's not a scenario where they have to shut this guy down for another 2 weeks. But I think we're okay with Spencer Strider, but obviously we'll keep our eye to the grindstone the next 24 hours, ear to the grindstone the next 24 hours, and hope that we can get this figured out with Spencer Strider. All right, we'll be back tomorrow to talk some more baseball. We usually talk baseball for the first half hour of the show pretty much every day here, except for Mondays where we spend the entire hour talking baseball. And on Thursdays, we talk football. And at Thursdays, when we talk football, we always visit with our man, Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com, Mr. Best Ball, amongst other things. He's got his best ball rankings up over at fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get the franchise mode off-season package and get access to all of that. Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. How you doing, Tyler?
Doing great, Ray. Thanks for having me today. Excited to talk some ball with you.
Good. Yeah, we always enjoy having you on. A programming note, Tyler's not going to be able to be with us next week, so get all your Tyler fixed this week because he'll next week he'll return the weekend after that, the week after that, excuse me. But yeah, there's a lot going on. The best ball rankings are up and active. I assume I didn't catch this. I apologize. The live stream last night, which is every Tuesday, or 2 days ago, live stream every Tuesday at 7:00 Eastern. You were on that, and it went well.
Correct. Yes, we did a lot of dynasty talk, reviewing a recent dynasty rookie draft that our group, actually, it's a Fantasy Guru Dynasty League it's a 2-copy, 28-person league with a lot of players and activity in that league. We're recapping our draft there over on Tuesday evening and talking about some dynasty buy lows at the time. So yeah, it was a fun little hour and a half of great content.
Tyler, by the way, what do you got coming? I usually ask at the end. I'll just ask at the start since we're talking about FG. What do you got coming up here the next couple of days? What's coming down? What do the folks have to look forward to if they sign up over at FG?
Sure. Armando, Marcel, and I, we've been working on some previews for the upcoming fantasy season, looking at how all of the offseason transactions through free agency, the NFL draft, how they've all kind of culminated and come together in terms of what to expect for the upcoming season. We're doing a series of podcasts over there on Armando's podcast, Mind of Marcel. And I'm doing a written version of it as well to try to add some extra context and content for our website over at fantasyguru.com, where you can read all the things there. I'll have some graphs and great information there as well. Usually doing about 1,000 words or so for each team.
Nice. So check that out over at FG. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Before we dive into some player stuff, a couple of questions about the last 24 hours in football, Tyler. This schedule release thing is, to me, the most banana thing I've ever seen in sports. Teams are releasing hype videos. They're sponsored by people. We got the Colts pulling back their video because they didn't get permission because they didn't talk to Microsoft about using Minecraft. Like, you're Mr. Football. Do you appreciate that, or does it seem a little ridiculous to do like it does to me? It's
ridiculous. Okay. We've already known who these teams were going to play. We just didn't know the order of who they'd play. Don't care. I don't care. This is just a news grab to me. The NFL wants to bogart all of the headlines for as long as they can, and they'll find a way to drag out a schedule release into 3 days.
Yeah, they've got there's celebrities doing this. Again, this sponsored videos on social media. It's just wild to me. Okay, I'm glad we're in agreement there. I don't know if you're in agreement with this next part, so let me ask you this. I've said many times the NFL controls North America. They control basically half the world. They aren't satisfied with that. We're going to Europe again. We've got like 412 games in Europe this year. They're playing on Christmas again, all these things. And whether you like that aspect of things or not, I think of things like the Vikings. Like the Vikings play back-to-back games across the pond in different countries. You know, Jeff Mans pushed back to me and said, well, yeah, Ray, what if the Seattle Seahawks got to fly to San Francisco? It's farther than yeah, but they're not in Europe, in a different country. In a second different country on back-to-back weeks. Do you think the league needs to take more consideration to the actual players and the competitive balance of this? Not just, it's tough for a player to fly across the ocean. It's all different. The stadium's different. The feel is different. Getting there is different. Some people aren't comfortable in you know what I mean? Then you're traveling and you're getting jet lag. Am I blowing this out of proportion? What do you think?
No, I'm kind of with you there on that. I think growing the sport internationally is great, sure, but it's just not been a great product overseas. Scoring in these European games has been down relative to games in the States. Betting favorites have truly just dominated. So a team with let's say a 3.5 point spread in their favor, they've almost like had like an 80% win rate just straight up. They've also dominated against the spread. It messes up DFS slates. It's unwatchable on the West Coast at 6:30 in the morning.
Tell me. Yeah.
Teams that come back from a London game the previous week, a good amount of them have generally had a bye week that follows, but they've stopped doing that for every single instance. And when these teams come back and are forced to play in the United States a week after playing in Europe, generally the opposing offense has cleared their team total in a very, very high percentage of games. In other words, the defense is very set up for a letdown upon the return back home. I just think this is so unnecessary, and it's just a pure cash grab by the NFL, where they're trying to get more people to buy the jerseys, buy tickets to overpriced outings. I'm out, man. Maybe I'm just a Debbie Downer in my age, but I'm out.
I totally agree with you. And Jeff, and I brought this up on the Elite Sports Show 3 to 6 Monday through Friday on Sirius XM. I brought this up with Jeff yesterday. I echoed almost exactly, or you echoed almost exactly what I said. And Jeff said in return, well, yeah, they don't care about selling tickets. I know they don't care about selling tickets. I know they're trying to grow the brand. I understand it. But at the same time, the NFL is saying middle finger to all of you people that buy tickets. Because don't forget, home games are gone. This is not basketball where you have 41 of them, or baseball where you have 81 of them. You have 8 or 9 home games. It's going to Europe. So they're telling the people that spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars every year to support this team. I think it's just terrible all the way around, Tyler.
I agree. Don't have anything nice to say about it. So
right.
we can just both give the and then move on.
Right. I didn't want to flip the camera off. I could have done it, but I didn't want to do it. Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. All right, let's dive into some real analysis. To me, like, sometimes these stories that get out in the press, like, I don't know, in baseball, we got this whole back and forth with the Red Sox about Rafael Devers and should he change positions or not. That should be dealt with in the clubhouse. That shouldn't be something we're talking about in the media. We get Adam Schefter reporting that Jayden Reed's representative, Drew Rosenhaus, who's not shy, talked to the Packers about what the situation is. What's going on with his client, Jayden Reed. Who cares? Show up and play football. Like, what's going on? What's going on is the Packers have 47 wide receivers. They're going to have 47 wide receivers again. Drew, your client's not catching 100 passes. Even if he's the number one guy, it's not happening. I see this storyline, and I'm like, clarifying his role, go out and play football. But fantasy-wise, what's his role, Jayden Reed?
Yeah, I mean, he's not even getting 100 targets. He has yet to do that in a singular season. This is just not a very pass-heavy offense. They were 31st in pass rate over expectation last year, showing very little will to throw the ball heavily. Reed's slot-heavy role, it also really reduces his impact in terms of his ability to get on the field and be a productive pass catcher. Add in the rushing and the red zone work that he's been seeing. I think that could be on the fritz after adding a guy like Savion Williams at a TCU, who's basically Cordero Patterson 2.0.
Yep. And
keep in mind, over 45% of Jayden Reed's receiving yardage last year came in just 3 games. So this guy's been very miss, and there's some hits, sure. They're great for the best ball spike week potential, but it's largely been duds, and that's with a lot of injuries sustained by the Packers unit last year. I think now's the perfect time to get out if you're a dynasty bag holder of Jayden Reed, while people still view him in a positive light. Right. This is a team that spreads the ball around and just doesn't throw heavily. So it's they're very small pie pieces in a very small pie.
So you're, other than a best ball scenario, like you're not taking Reed even if he's like your wide receiver 40 off the board. You're just not interested.
No, not really interested.
Okay. Good to know. Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. You never say dumb things. I on occasion say dumb things. You talk a lot. You eventually say something stupid. Lions offensive coordinator, and I'm going to throw this comment into that box. John Morton said that this is going to be a breakout year for Jameson Williams. I think he had 1,000 yards last year and like 7 touchdowns. So I don't know is he going for 2014? I don't know. Okay. So it's a stupid comment, but obviously the OC is hinting that he thinks there could be growth for Jameson Williams. I think it's fair if you should have said it that way, right? Who is Jameson Williams in 2025? Is there another level statistically for him to go after what was his breakout season last year?
Yeah, 1,001 yards last year receiving. We got to keep that one in there. But yeah, he hit the 4 digits mark, which is great. The quote from Morton, he's been unbelievable. Can't wait to see the jump. It's going to be a breakout year for him. I'm kind of into it. I really like the excitement there. I also like to look at like the game splits that he had to start the year. The first 6 games, 16.9% target share, 5.0 targets per game. That's okay. It's not needle moving. 14.7 fantasy points per game though. That's certainly eye appealing. Final 9 games, those rates all jumped up. 18.4% target share, 6.8 targets per game, 15.3 fantasy points per game. This guy's currently the wide receiver 29 in underdog ADP. I think he has a top 24 floor should he stay healthy all season.
Okay.
And I'm buying. I just sent an offer of the 111 in a rookie draft in a 16-team league, trying to buy him in Dynasty as a one-for-one sale.
Right.
Just before we started recording here, hoping to get that moving before this quote reaches everybody. But yeah, he did that presser. I think it was 2 or 3 days ago now.
Right.
But yeah, I bought it. I'm in. I think the Lions offense is a team where everyone thinks because Ben Johnson left that they're suddenly going to take a turn for the worse. There's a lot of great pieces here. It's a great foundation, great weapons. JMO in a contract season as well. We look at all the other ancillary receivers. I don't really care. I think Jameson has a really good shot at being the number 2 pass catcher in this team again.
Tyler Beaker of FantasyGuru.com joins us every Thursday, except for next week at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Let's talk a little bit Jets football here. And I want to break this up into 2 pieces. First, let's talk about the quarterback. Justin Fields, who is he this year? Is he QB1? Is he somebody you're targeting? Is he somebody you're backing off of? Is it all about cost? Like, talk us through Justin Fields because, there were some really nice things he did for the Steelers last year. He did seemingly show some growth. And the Jets clearly don't have an offense filled with superstars, so they're probably going to lean on him pretty heavily. Where are you at with Justin Fields in 2025?
It's tough not to like him. He's been a top 12 fantasy asset seemingly throughout his entire career. And let's look at those Pittsburgh games. 6 games he was a starter, top 8 fantasy quarterback in that span, produced a better EPA per pass mark, better CPOE than what Russell Wilson did, whenever he took over. Look even further back, the 12 full games that he played with Chicago the season prior, quarterback 6 over that span. So I'm going to let others overthink this one. He's, to me, your emergency ripcord in best ball or redraft leagues if you miss out on the top 4 mobile quarterbacks, they're pretty pricey this year in terms of where they're going off the board. Fields, on the other hand, he's available middle of round 9. I don't even mind reaching and grabbing around 8 just to make sure you get him because this guy has top 12 upside, currently QB 11 in ADP. We look at the offensive line that got retooled in terms of adding guys that are healthy now in the interior, getting a pair of round 1 tackles at both left tackle and right tackle. I really like the upside here. The weapons are kind of sparse, sure. Garrett Wilson's a beast, though. I think he'll be in for a season that's very memorable. I think he's a great buy. I think Breece Hall's on the cusp of a breakout after everyone was frustrated with him last year. But Breece Hall, let's talk about him for a second.
Yeah, dive into Breece Hall because he's the next question.
Sure. Round 3 to round 4 ADP, right at that turn. And this was a guy that was going top 5 last year in most redraft leagues because everyone saw the upside for him in terms of a lot of volume. Then we saw Aaron Rodgers come in, do Aaron Rodgers shenanigans, turn every passing or rushing every passing or rushing called play into purely a passing play. Yeah, where he got the ball. Aaron Rodgers just wanted the ball. That led to just 13.1 carries per game for Breece Hall. Not a great volume number. But I anticipate this team and this iteration of the Jets with Fields under center to be far less pass-heavy, sport a far lower pass rate of expectation rate, find more success behind an offensive line that certainly improved in terms of the personnel they've added. Last year, they were 29th in ESPN's run block win rate. Not a great stat. But again, I think adding Armand Membu, great move for them here in terms of improving their right tackle situation. And Hall is just a fantastic asset. Like, this is a guy that just was purely underutilized. He was splitting time with Braylon Allen at an absurd rate. I think that kind of goes back in terms of Hall being the RB1 and Allen the RB2. To me, Breece Hall is just a great floor play where we're getting him at round 3, round 4 costs. And the ceiling for him is well above his current ADP. This is a guy that I do think has top 5 fantasy potential, and we're getting him at a bargain this year.
So 2 follow-up questions for you on this.
Sure.
One, we heard Aaron Glenn say, we got like 17 running backs on this team. We're going to use them all. I'm exaggerating a little bit. But Aaron Glenn did mention the other backs. So number one, it sounds like you're not worried about that. So talk us through that. And then secondarily, the question is about the running quarterback. So it's easy to say when you have a running quarterback, there's going to be some times at the goal line where maybe you steal a touchdown kind of thing. We don't often talk about the fact that if you have a running quarterback, that can open up lanes for the running back as well, because then the defense has to worry about who's got the ball coming out of the backfield. So talk to us about the running quarterback and how that affects a guy like Breece Hall, and this talking point by Aaron Glenn about we've got a lot of running backs.
Yeah, they put mics in his face during that whole NFL retreat where all the coaches like do their kind of summit meeting once a year. Mm-hmm. And like when you're put in a situation like that, I think you're only going to spew positive notes. There's no reason for them to talk negative. So I'm really curious to see. There's a great Twitter account called Coach Speak Index, which kind of adds validity to what coaches say, whether it's utilization, whether it's health status. There's all kinds of different things that they take into account. I'm very curious to see what Aaron Glenn ends up being a year from now after we get a full season worth of data. To me, I'm just taking it at face value where he's just speaking positive about the guys that he has on the roster. He's not talking shit about them at a time where there's no need for him to do that.
Right.
As far as the running ability with Justin Fields and that impacting Breece Hall's ability, sure, it's definitely going to open up some rushing lanes, but I think the passing element's also noteworthy where, unlike most mobile QBs, Justin Fields isn't the type of guy that won't check down. He'll also throw to the running back position at honestly a far higher rate than most mobile QBs. I believe Armando had a quote from him last season, so it didn't include the Pittsburgh stats, but the Chicago years, he was top 12 in percentage of throws that went to the running back position. To me, that's very notable. That means that he's not afraid to check down when the options presents itself. Mm-hmm. And Breece Hall is a fantastic pass catcher. This guy, honestly, a great dual threat. I think I just love his ADP. Around 3-4, I can start a draft with 3 receivers and still end up with Breece Hall as my RB1. I'm very, very excited for that.
For those of you that missed the Elite Sports Show on Sirius yesterday, Jeff Mann said the same thing. So Jeff and Tyler thinking the same thing about Breece Hall. Yes. Tyler Beaker of FantasyGuru.com. Another running back to ask you a question about. Christian McCaffrey. We're getting the positive reports already about Christian McCaffrey. We spent most of the offseason talking about the Niners and the fact they have no players left. One of the guys they do have left is Christian McCaffrey. And to win football games, they're going to need him touching the ball 20 times a week. We know it's the Shanahan offense. It's going to work. We all know all this stuff. So who is Christian McCaffrey for you? And will he end up on any seasonal Tyler Beaker teams?
It's a great question. Injuries certainly piled up last year. Unfortunately, we didn't get any of the solidified news in terms of duration until after many people had their fantasy drafts, which was a great kick in the shins for many of us, me included. I will say that towards the tail end of last year, he was reportedly good to go should the Niners have made the playoffs. So that at least tells me he's ready to go for all of the offseason work, all of the practices and training and everything there that's associated with that. But it does turn 29 in, I think, a month from now. So he's an age 29 running back. He's got over 2,000 touches in his NFL career. These type of backs are ticking time bombs for fantasy purposes. I think he's going to return RB1 fantasy value as long as he's healthy, but now is the time to get out in Dynasty if you haven't already. He's a great sell to contenders, but rebuilders, now get out. Now's the time to part ways for sure. As far as redraft, I think he's an interesting selection because you can get him right now in round 2. I think he's got a top 15 average draft position over an underdog, if I'm not mistaken. So a 1-2 turn where maybe you go back-to-back running backs and then just go receiver heavy for multiple rounds later. I think that's viable. I don't think you need to do that. I think CMC's the type of high upside play, though, where he can win you your league if he stays healthy. We saw it literally the season prior. So there's some risk there, I think, in large tournaments where you get rewarded for that asymmetrical upside versus beating a group of, let's say, 11 people in a 12-team league. That format where the upside isn't as important or as weight impacted makes McCaffrey less appealing in that format. But in a large field tournament, let's say you're playing in any of these best ball leagues or tournaments where they offer $1 million up top for the highest scoring team, then CMC is worth targeting in my eyes. But again, it's the context there is very important, where if I'm beating a group of 11 random people in my home league, my work league, probably going to go right past CMC's name and click someone else.
I like that. See, context matters, folks. If you ask a question in Discord, if you ask a question here on the show, wherever it be, context is really important. Tyler Beaker, FantasyGuru.com. So we go from one guy who's got concerns for a few obvious health reasons to another guy who's got concerns about all kinds of things. George Pickens. Just to rehash the George Pickens scenario, he's obviously with the Cowboys now, and we're starting to get the reports that, oh, here we go. Pickens is going to blow up this year. He's going to explode this year. He's going to get single coverage this year. Dak Prescott's talking about him this. It's like the hype train, and it's Dallas, right? So the hype train is going. So I only can envision his ADP continuing to rise as we get closer to the start of the season. We know he's the number 2 guy with this team. We know the Cowboys are not going to be afraid to throw the football. We know that. Who is George Pickens this year? Is he 6 to 8 targets and up and down like we saw with Pittsburgh? Do you think it's more than that? Do you think it's more consistency than that? Are you in? Are you out because of the off-the-field stuff and on-the-field shenanigans? Where are you at with George Pickens?
It's a great question, and it's a tough question. Pickens is a very, very talented player, round 2 draft pedigree, amazing highlight reel catches. We've all seen it. Mm-hmm. Volume has been his biggest hurdle, with the second one being him being a head case. That's really close to number 2. But this team, Dallas, they definitely needed a perimeter weapon. They parted ways with Brandon Cooks this offseason. They've swung and missed on so many guys on the outside, guys like Jalen Tolbert, Simi Fehiko, Jalen Brooks, Michael Gallup. They traded for Jonathan Mingo. The list goes on. They really haven't had that outside guy that they can rely on consistently. I do think paired up with Dak Prescott, it's a win for both Pickens and Prescott, where it should help both on paper. Prescott is a more than willing deep ball thrower. He's generally in the top 15 in deep pass rate. Those are passes in PFF's database that go 20 plus yards or more. And he's graded really well on those passes. He's not a terrible deep ball thrower, despite having those struggles at the receiver position.
Right.
So I'll be honest, this is a really tricky assessment. I think everything could go right, and Pickens turns into the vertical playmaker with the consistent fantasy returns. I think Jameson Williams basically last season is kind of best case scenario. We're looking at 5 to 7 targets, maybe hits the 1,000-yard mark, and I don't know, 6 to 8 touchdowns.
Okay.
But this isn't a Madden simulation. So I have my doubts where things are going to go wrong here, and Pickens will find a way to do something erratic, probably draw headlines.
Yep.
But when I look at the opportunity cost, which I think we should all view players in that lens. Okay. What are you giving up when you select George Pickens right now? And George Pickens right now, middle of round 5 in average drafts, over on Underdog. I'm more interested in guys like here. I'll list some names up and down right around his ADP that I'm much more interested in. Okay. George Kittle, Chuba Hubbard, RJ Harvey, Kenneth Walker, Jalen Waddle, Calvin Ridley. All those guys are near his ADP, and I'd take every single one of them over George Pickens. So sure, there's some upside there. I just think it's not a risk that I'm willing to take, given that I'd rather take football is such an injury-driven game. I want to take my shots with just injury, not off-field shenanigans where I have no control over that. Yep. And it's just one more thing to account for with Pickens. And it's just a spot where I'm personally just probably not going to be targeting him.
Saints had Derek Carr. Now they don't have Derek Carr. That whole situation devolved speedily from he's fine to his shoulder hurts to he's retired. Wow. There's even some rumors that he might have retired so he can get out of his contract and return next year. But regardless, what are the Saints doing at quarterback this year? They got 3 youngsters there. They obviously drafted one of them. Who's going to be the starter in week 1? And is there any positivity with this passing attack with the Saints?
Yeah, it's a tough one to get super excited about. I feel for Kellen Moore, who finally got the head coaching gig. Fortunately, he goes to a situation that's pretty dire in year 1. Tyler Shuck, their early selection in round 2, suddenly makes a lot more sense spending the early capital for a guy that we thought was a bit of a reach. Still believe he's a reach. This is a guy that cannot read fields at all. He's not a great processor. But I believe he'll contend with everybody there, Rattler and the company and the other guys, to get first crack at the starting gig here. Mm-hmm. Pass catchers are awesome. I love Olave and Shaheed when they're healthy. Right. That's a big win. Problem is Olave's on concussion 5 going on 6. Yep. Again, we've been talking a lot of dynasty here because it's on the forefront of my brain right now. So get out on Olave when you can right now. We were talking about that over in Discord, I think, the other day with one of our subscribers. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the QB does enter a positive situation, and we've seen Kellen Moore produce good offenses in different varieties when we look across the landscape of how he did well with Dallas, the Chargers, the Eagles. In terms of passing offenses, rushing offenses, he can cater to what his playmakers offer. And right now it just kind of seems like an Alvin Kamara-led offense, which Kamara kind of hit the wall last year. He was great to start the season, but he's another back up there in terms of getting up there in age and touches and it all just adding up. He's really the biggest benefactor here. I just have a tough time backing a Saints offense where Last year, I think they were bottom dwelling in terms of points scored. I don't foresee that changing much this season. I think it's really just a Kamara-based offense, and we want to kind of fade the passing attack.
Well, Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. With the Giants, we've got some excitement about Scattaboo in the backfield. We obviously have Malik Neighbors there. We got 3 quarterbacks. They traded up for Jackson Dart. I think it's pretty roundly been supported as a good move. They've got Wilson, they've got Winston, and they've got Dart. Dart is almost certainly going to start at some point, right? I would have to think that's the case this season. What is your expectation on when Jackson Dart takes over? And with the likely changing of the guard, if you will, at the quarterback position at some point in the season, should Malik Neighbors be like a top 5 pick? Is he just locked in no matter what?
I'll be honest, I haven't looked at the Giants' schedule, and I think that's going to drive my answer for Jackson Dart's start time. Okay. Depends on when their bye week is and if they have a soft opponent the week after. As far as Neighbors, I think we've seen last year with that cornucopia of poor QB play that there's a good shot that there's just upside, pure upside when we add vertical field stretchers with quarterbacks and Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. Even Jackson Dart's not afraid to throw the ball deep. He's more of a 1 or 2 read kind of guy in his RPO offense at Ole Miss, but there's definitely the fact that he was unafraid to take vertical shots, which screams great stuff for Malik Neighbors' upside. And hell, you can lump Darius Slayton into that category too, with that massive $36 million contract. I think this team just did really well in terms of trying to make a weakness I don't want to say a point of strength, but it's no longer in that bucket of weakness. The QBs they have are at least competent, and we'll see how it plays out in terms of playing time and everything. Again, I'm not expecting Dart to start. We'll probably see Russell Wilson, who I believe from everything I've read, he's slated to begin the camp as QB1, taking those reps. But it's Russell Wilson. He hit a wall last year, and I think that wall is not going down. I think it's going to be tough for him to climb back over as he enters one of his maybe final years of his starting ability. So maybe Dart hits by like week 6 or so.
Interesting. I'm looking at the schedule right now. The Giants have their bye in week 14.
Oh.
And then coming out of the bye, Commanders and Vikings. Ugh. So yeah, if they wait that long, if they wait. So we'll see. And again, Tyler's right. That's often a good point for people to look at when you're talking young quarterbacks in particular. When is that bye? What's it look like? But it is very late in the year for the Giants. Good news, obviously, for Malik Neighbors because he's the guy we all really care about anyway. Yes. Finally, let's have a tight end discussion. We can't have a visit without a tight end question. Dallas Goedert with the Eagles. He was going to be dealt. He wasn't going to be dealt. He was going to be dealt. He wasn't. He reworked his contract. He's part of the Eagles. We know that. Who is he in 2025? Like all the talk is about Hurts and Barkley, and then we get the receivers. And, Goedert catches 4 balls for 47 yards. And is he bottom tight end 1? Is he a tight end 2? Is he I don't care? Is he I'm targeting him because of his cost? Who is Dallas Goedert?
He was a distant 3rd in target share last year for the Eagles, where Brown and Smith were one of those rare duos where they kind of commanded over 50 to 55% of the targets. It's not often where you see just 2 wide receivers really steal the limelight to that capacity. There are a few instances, like I think Jamar Chase and T. Higgins fall into that bucket. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans typically do. But it left Goedert as like the guy picking up scraps, where he really only was used on like shallow crossing patterns, and they tried to let him just pick up yards after the catch in that capacity. So Goedert to me is just a low floor play. He didn't see a lot of vertical options and vertical routes. I don't envision this team suddenly changing their scheme in terms of playing more 3 receiver sets and suddenly having the tight end run more vertical routes. I think they're still going to lean on the run. They're going to lean on Saquon and Jalen Hurts and these 2 outside receivers that just command both north of a 25% target share. So to me, Goddard's very forgettable. He's replaceable in typical redraft leagues where you're starting a tight end. He's just that guy where you're hoping he gets a touchdown and that they're a dime a dozen. So I'm going elsewhere where I'm hoping for a guy with more volume that I can also hope gets the touchdown as well. So Goedert's probably off my redraft radar entering 2025.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. Remember, Tyler's on the live stream every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern. He's doing the Mind of Marsaul podcast series right now looking at divisions. And you can find that. Go to fantasyguru.com, click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. That'll show you where this show is cataloged as well as Armando's show. In addition to the show where Tyler's on there talking about everything, he's going to have an article accompanying it. So you'll also be able to read about it if you need a little bit more information there. The best ball data that Tyler updates is now up there. You have a series up there now. Are you adding another competitions best ball rankings too? Did I remember that correctly? You said you were going to do that?
I am, yes. I'll be having Drafters and DraftKings best ball rankings up. I'll have them up shortly. We are launching our fantasy football draft guide on June 2nd, and I might have that tie into that draft guide launch.
Well, there'll be too much information for everyone to read, but it'll all be up there at fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. If you have any questions, send a note to support@fantasyguru.com. Support@fantasyguru.com will get you hooked up for football season. And as you can tell, football season's 365 at fantasyguru.com, and Tyler is a part of that. Tyler, thanks for your time today. We won't see you next week, but we'll visit with you again in 2 weeks. So have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good. Thank you very much for having me on, Ray.
You got it. He's Tyler Buecher. You can follow him on Twitter X @TylerBuecher. You can see his name there on the screen, Buecher, if you're looking to spell it. For Tyler, I'm Ray. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com. We'll see you tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern. Back here again for the free show. Take care.